Let's see. It should be. There we go. Attendees. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Hello.
I muted them. Mute myself for a second. All right, so while everyone's still joining, I want to say welcome to season of Fireside Chat with Black Cyber OGs. This is part 3. Just a quick couple of housekeeping rules. I'm Najla Lindsay. I am a forensic scientist by trade, and I am currently transitioning to the cybersecurity industry. So I put this on because I wanted to see people that look like me, that have years of experience, and just wanted them to share what they know, their thoughts, their opinions, and so on and so forth. And with that being said, I want everyone to understand that all of the panelists are doing this on their own free will. There's no exchange of goods or services. They all volunteered, and they know that this is a labor of love, and they don't speak for me, my company, or their company per se. So in any event of that, if you feel that you want to use anything that they say, specifically media-wise, I ask that you reach out to them directly, because we all have livelihoods to protect, and we don't want to jeopardize anyone's livelihood. So I ask that wholeheartedly, and I really would appreciate if that happens. But otherwise, we're here. And we thank you for joining us on this lovely Saturday. And we will be getting started shortly. All right, so we'll just get right into it. So I'm going to ask everyone this question. And first, I want everyone to introduce themselves. And I am going to start with Christina. Just give a brief background, your experience, and share whatever it is. You got 2 minutes. It's fine, but 2 minutes.
TLDR. Okay, so everyone, Christina Morillo. I am based out of New York City. Born and raised in New York City. I've been in the technology and security industry for about 22 years now. Started as a sysadmin, network admin, worked my way through IT security, identity and access management, now cloud security. So really extensive background, and I feel like I still don't know anything and still have much to learn. I'm also a mom, doing a grad program in the evenings. I have 3 kids. And life is crazy, but that's just how I love it. So nice to meet everyone.
Popcorn to anyone of your choosing, except for Jay.
Oh, okay. Rod. Let's go, Rod.
I'm trying to figure out why you just decided to choose me, but we'll talk later.
I like
Rod
your red
Holmes. Oh, you like the hat? Oh, okay. I'm Rod Holmes. I'm out of Houston, Texas. I've been in the industry for coming up on 31 years. Started my career out at NASA at Johnson Space Center. as a network security engineer. Worked there probably around 5 years. Left the public sector and went into the private sector and started my career there at oil and gas. Worked at Halliburton. I've worked at Schlumberger, and I just recently retired in 2017 after 18 years at Marathon Oil Corporation. While I was at Marathon Oil, I had various roles. Started out in doing networks and network security, became a networks operation manager, and I also did security operations manager. I've been a global security architect, and also by the time I retired, I spent the last 5 or 6 years at in the CISO role at Marathon Oil. Retired in 2017. And I've been a CISO and a virtual CISO for various companies throughout until now. Strengths, I guess I could say that security program management, architecture, operations, all of those things that you would think that a CISO would do. I do some better than others. Everyone, I'm kind of like Christina. You learn something new at every single juncture in your career. And for me, my philosophy is you just keep learning and keep improving. So keep getting better. That's me. I'm gonna go to Abraham. Go for it, bro.
Thank you, sir. My name is Abraham Snell, and I am coming up on 25 years in the industry. I started out in college programming for the USDA. Went to Bell South as a Unix sysadmin. I'm more of an operating system specialist. I mean, that is kind of the main part. But through my career, so I was at Bell South, outsourced to EDS. Then I went to work for Sun Microsystems as a national fly and fix and a product manager. Then I took a stint out of IT and worked at my local church. The church was a mega church, and I was the business manager. So I was the executive pastor, whatever you want to call that. So that was a lot of management, but I also built their network from like 3 computers that weren't even connected to the internet, to enterprise system with virtualization and all that, telephone networking, all that stuff. Then I went to work for the government, the Department of Defense, and then system engineer for Southern Company. Southern Company is an electric utility. It is not a slave selling company. I have to say that because the name is Southern Company. People are like, bruh, Southern Company? Are you serious right now? No, so they're an electric utility, right? Alabama Power, Georgia Power, Gulf Power. Most recently, so now I'm a solutions architect for Red Hat. So, but mainly the last several years of my career doing a lot of system architecting, system engineering, and now I'm a solutions architect, which is a pre-sales role where I work in the public sector yet again. So I support NASA, CDC, USDA, those kind of folks, helping sell them solutions. Doing a lot of cloud stuff now. My career, just like Christina, just like Rod, I started out when virtualization wasn't a thing, and then it was virtualization. Now it's cloud native and containers. And so just continuing to learn. I feel like I don't know anything. So I'm going to pick Dr. Michael Owens.
Hey, thank you, Abe. I appreciate it. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Owens. I currently work for Equifax as one of the security officers, and I always tell people that I am post-breach with Equifax. I'm actually one of the people that were hired to actually come in and take over the USIS security and cyber area. So I have to get that across very quickly so people don't prejudge me, right? But like many others, I've got a long background in IT and cyber. I'm a veteran of the United States Marine Corps, so I started off in the Marines at 17 years old, working in comms, and kind of stayed in the field in one way, shape, or another. I think my first job probably out of college was, well, I guess my first corporate job was working on Windows 3.12, actually installing LPR printers and putting TCP/IP on Windows 3.12 computers, and finding out how to screw up Novell servers. Like that was it. And just kind of worked my way up from there. I've worked a lot in the fintech space. I've worked public sector. I did a stint at Cisco for a while. I do a lot of work because I work for a lot of international companies. I also work a lot in the this kind of confluence between government and cyber policy, cyber warfare. I went to U.S. Army War College, where I worked with a lot of kind of our preeminent folks on what cyber warfare looks like, how we work to protect not only individuals but also our public and private assets, and what it looks like through a cybersecurity lens when it comes to national security. I've worked abroad in, I can't even remember the number of countries I've worked in, but I did take a stint over, and not really a stint, but I did some pretty serious work in Ukraine a couple of years ago when Russia had invaded Crimea, and they were shutting down, the Ukrainian power grid on demand. So I was one of 16 people that was chosen to actually go to Ukraine and actually work with government officials and to shine a spotlight on what was going on over there, and actually build kind of this threat intelligence, threat sharing model that's still being used in other places. So I'm happy to be here today, happy to share some of our common shared lived experiences through Black faces, brown faces in cyber, and hope that this is a productive discussion that leads to a lot more. Let's go with John. John.
Cool.
Go for it.
Jay is not included in this right now. She's helping me on the back end.
Brent, take it away.
Sorry.
You know what? I wanted to choose another woman. That's why I went with her, because there's a lot of males on this panel. Christina went first, so I was trying to be the polite gentleman thing.
That's good. That's fine. Brent, I think you're up.
Okay. Hi, my name is Brent Chambers. I'm based out of Phoenix, Arizona. I grew up in Maryland. I am a lifetime programmer, circa 93, 94, and a professional security practitioner for about 15 years now. I've worked in public, private, financial, and health sectors, backgrounds in network security and software engineering. I'm currently a pen tester for Fortune 50 and a proud cybersecurity master's student at Georgia Tech.
Popcorn to
All right,
whoever you want.
Christina.
Go Jackets.
Are you also a yellow jacket? You
That's
also a
right.
yellow jacket? Awesome.
Nice.
Let's go Jesse.
All right.
Third.
Yeah, kind of common name to some extent, so I try to add the third on there, my father, my grandfather. Thanks for adding me. And thanks for having us all. I really appreciate the opportunity to kind of reach out and hopefully reach back to some of the younger folks and help them avoid some of the landmines that I've hit throughout my career. Pretty much speaking of my career, my first position technically was at Rowan University as a computer lab monitor. Pretty sure you guys had some experience with that as well. Just pretty much daily students saying my mouse isn't working, my printer isn't working, things like that. That was my introduction to technology. I got my first laptop as a freshman in college. My mom got it for me for my birthday. So that was my introduction to technology. I started to grow from there. Good old Napster took me down, blew my hard drive up, and I had to repair that and install my own operating system. And that kind of piqued my interest from there. From there, I actually graduated from Rowan, and I was able to get a job as a help desk person at a credit union, and worked there for 3 years or so, and went to a job fair at Monmouth University in New Jersey. I'm from New Jersey originally, Jersey Shore. Monmouth University had a great job fair. I went and I got introduced to the government sector, or the public sector, as a contractor. So I started off as a contractor 3 years, DOD, working for the Army. Ended up getting picked up as a full-time federal employee for 5 years. And from there, I moved to Washington, D.C., where I worked in the Pentagon for about 3 years with the Marine Corps, serving as pretty much a branch chief. If anyone, I think we have a couple Marines on the line here. The motto is do more with less. So essentially, we were from the help desk all the way from network design to accreditation of systems, building out accredited labs, pretty much everything, which is a great experience. It introduced me to a lot of different realms. And from there, I moved over to the Department of Homeland Security, where I served as a program manager. It was a different role from cyber, but I've always had the background in cyber. So in the government, they call them ISOs, Information Security Officers, essentially accrediting systems and different classifications, ensuring that the controls are in place. I won't go too deep into that. I know tech guys here, but pretty much take a look at a system and make sure that it meets all the requirements and make sure it's safe to be put on the government network. So I've done a lot of that, and I've managed folks that have done that. And recently I transitioned into a private sector position. So I feel like I'm a little long-winded here, so I'm gonna popcorn it over to Wayne.
Hey guys, Wayne Dennis. Had a really convoluted career, and then thanks Jesse for the intro. I'm probably gonna go off a video soon here because this is from my phone because my computer, for whatever reason, camera doesn't want to work. Background in research. I got my starting in actually machine learning as a machine learning programmer and researcher at Carnegie Mellon. I have a degree in political science from an HBC in Alabama, Oakwood University. So I ended up going to school there, doing some research at the School of Computer Science and the Institute for Software Research. Did some research there for about a year and a half. Got picked up by an FFRDC by the name of CERT, where I did a lot of work in the intelligence community for the next year, working with 3 other agencies with respect to machine learning and cybersecurity. That was my first formal foray into cybersecurity. Did that. Unfortunately, government shut down, got laid off, ended up taking a role in healthcare, transitioned to a healthcare firm out in Bowie, Maryland, worked there with respect to incident response and essentially all the, I started with incident response, but essentially got exposure to all the different domains there. Side note, I really don't like healthcare. So I ended up taking a role in nuclear, which is an area that I got a lot of exposure to with the government and something I was really, passionate about, ICS, critical infrastructure. Took a role at Westinghouse Nuclear, did some work there for a few years across, engineering, cyber services, system design, et cetera, INC. And then of course, ultimately concluding with assessments and testing. Got picked up by PwC, came in as a manager to kind of lead our medical device practice, help build that, turn it into, our medical IoT practice. Back when IoT started becoming a big buzzword, transition from that back into ICS a little bit more formally. Traveled the world, visited about 60 different countries, doing work for, I don't know, dozens, if not hundreds of different vendors, clients across several different, industry sects, life sciences, manufacturing, retail, automotive, oil and gas, energy utilities, et cetera, chemical, and the occasional, government, depending on whether or not we had a friendly relationship with that particular country. As of late, I'm now working for Accenture, came on board as our products lead for operational technology and ICS. Did that for a better part of a year and transitioned into a cloud role, which I've been performing in the last year and a half, where I'm leading our global practice for Google Cloud Security. So, happy to be a part of this. Thanks, Naj, for the opportunity. I'm looking forward to contributing. Who hasn't gone? Corey?
Corey, Dane, Sulaiman. Pick one.
Can you hear me?
Oh.
Yeah, it says my network is unstable, so hopefully you can hear me. So yeah, my name is Corey Lee. I've been working in cyber in the tech space for about 12 13 years now. I primarily focus on, at least throughout my.
Dang it. I think we lost them. All right. When he jumps back on, we'll get back to him. I'm going to move to Dane for the moment.
All right. Dane Bamburry, based in Atlanta. Been in this industry for about 23, getting ready to start 24 years. Started out in web security, web hosting, back in the day when everybody wanted a website. So worked my way through that. Done firewalls, networking, all of that type of stuff. Been a solutions architect, been an enterprise architect. Currently, my role is leading 4 different distinct areas. I have responsibility for identity and access management, enterprise content management, the whole Office 365 platform, and I lead a team of solutions architects for Cox Enterprises. So I have a varied across all kinds of spaces, but security runs through all of those from my perspective. Appreciate being on the panel. My big thing is about giving back. So I do a lot of mentoring. I have a ton of people I want to pay forward to. The goal is when you get knowledge, you share knowledge, not to keep knowledge.
Amen.
And I'll pass it over to Sulaiman.
Thank you. Thank you, Naj, for having us. My name is Sulaiman. I'm originally from Philadelphia, moved to the Midwest, Minneapolis, about 4 years ago. Got my start in technology, I would say right around the beginning of the internet era. So AOL days, back fun days. Had dial-up computer, Windows 95, Windows 2000. Right when I turned about 14, started to get into more internet gaming. So play like CSGO, stuff like that. Around 2007, saw the movie Live Free Die Hard, which had the original Backtrack 4, which got my spark in hacking world and understanding this brave new cybersecurity thing. Went off to college, got in some trouble, never got arrested, but download Metasploit in the library is not a smart idea. Pretty sure I pissed off a lot of IR people at a Friday evening in the library, but I was attempting to start learning CH. What I thought in cybersecurity is you must become a hacker, pen tester. Spent some time around the block, went to Black Hat, realized that's not the case. Went to another local conference here in Philadelphia called PumCon, met some people that says, no, you should start getting to more compliance and understanding the world of security. So went back to the drawing board, started off with the basics, help desk at a Philadelphia library, helping support users, which is key because it helps you learn how to talk to people. Get over the stereotype of not talking. Moved off of that role to sysadmin for a local financial institution in the mainline. After that, got kind of fed up with system admin roles, so I went into security as a second hire at a nonprofit in Philadelphia, helped them build out their risk management, internal pen testing, internal compliance, sort of build like a roadmap. When I left that place, moved here to Minnesota, started as a consultant doing GRC work, enjoyed that, audit, left that, went back into banking, doing mostly around the PKI and SSL certs and securing that. Left that, went into government, local government and state government, supporting build-out SIMs, GRC, PCI compliance, wearing many hats, doing more for less, and as well as audits for the body cam warrant audits. So that's been my journey into tech. So just here to give back, share some war stories, horror stories, and for any advice about what not to do to keep a job. So my new focus is to get into cloud security, been pivoting off of that, and mostly been doing vulnerability assessments lately. So that's it.
Nice. Thank you all for joining. I think Corey's trying to get back on, so once you join again, we'll get to him. But I want to jump right into this. So my first question for everyone is, what is your current views, thoughts, and opinions about the cybersecurity industry as it relates to Black people? And that answer is, it varies. So tell me what it is that, how you see Black people in the industry right now. And I'm gonna start with Brent. And you just popcorn. I actually want everyone to answer this question. And you just popcorn to anyone you want after you provide your answer.
Sure. Thanks. Thanks for that. You know, I've always believed that technology is the great equalizer. And it's got such a low barrier of entry that it really allows anyone and everyone to get involved if in fact they've got the curiosity and the motivation to learn. So from an industry perspective and a corporate perspective, there are barriers because those cultural and societal issues will always bubble up. But it's very hard to ignore someone that has a level of skill that's proficient and efficient and proven. So with respect to the question, you know, how does it relate to Black people? It does, because Black people are given an opportunity that we may have never had before by way of an avenue that's open and accessible anywhere and everywhere around the world. So from the ghettos of Baltimore, where my mother used to teach, you know, you can have a kid put themselves a computer together through, you know, just parts lying around. Like when I was a kid, I used to go to like business complexes and literally dumpster dive to find parts and disks and hard drives that were thrown away and monitors that were just tossed out, and literally just put together a lab when I was like 15 years old. And it was free because it was tossed out. So the aspect that allows you to get out there, learn, acquire knowledge is so much wider and so much more accessible these days. So I think that not just for Black folks, but for people of color, for underprivileged people around the world, cybersecurity is a gateway to success. It's a gateway to a fruitful lifestyle that can really change your, I guess, your living situation based on where you come from and where you could potentially go.
Okay.
I'm just going to go to the right and give it to Rod. It's to my right there.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, Brent. My take is, you know, I grew up in the inner city of Houston as well. And you know, and I'm listening to some of you guys talk about how you got your start, when you were introduced to computers and technology. And for me, my experience didn't begin until I got to Texas A&M. And I think I received my first computer when I was a sophomore, and it wasn't a laptop. It was an actual Tandy, and I can't remember, it was from Radio Shack. I can't remember the model, it's been so long ago. You know, but I do remember, you know, getting the 3.5 inch floppy drives and, you know, and being made fun of because everyone is like that, you know, that particular floppy drive is never going to take off like these 5 1/4s have taken off, you know, and it didn't have a hard drive in it. And I mean, the technology has really enabled and kind of, from my perspective, been the great equalizer. And there's really no excuse. There's really nothing that is at this point that should stop anyone from participating in technology. When I'm looking at my children TikToking and you know, and doing all these other different things that were so unimaginable for me when I was growing up. You know, we played football, we were outside, but my kids now fully participate in the technological experience. They fully participate in all of the things that warms my heart to see them do, because, you know, I introduced them to these things. I introduced them to all of the technological things that they've seen, and I'm looking at how they embrace it and how their world in terms of knowing what somebody is doing in China. When I was growing up, China was just, you know, this obscure place. It didn't represent anything and didn't have any real meaning. So when you're interacting with people around the world and you're getting a cultural experience by your little phone, and you're actually having the opportunity to be exposed to a lot of the technological things, including cybersecurity that's going on in the world. I have a hard time thinking that our future is bleak. I think that people of color have just as much of an opportunity to get behind this technological experience, you know, since the 90s. I mean, the 90s, we all know, was a technological boom and economic explosion. And, you know, the internet exploded, you know, across the world. And, you know, the access went beyond the military and went beyond the colleges and universities, and now it's right at your fingertips. There, you know, this is a unique time for the children of this generation to look at all aspects of cybersecurity, and there's so many, you know, and everyone has this debate about, do you have to be technical, and do you have to program, and do you have to have these specific skills, and do you have to have this one singular avenue to participate in a technological experience with cybersecurity? And I think everyone knows that that's not true. There are so many different ways you can participate in, from the governance aspect of it, from the privacy aspect of it, from the technical aspect of it, from the hacking, the offensive security piece, the differ piece, all these different avenues that you can better provide for your families with technology today is phenomenal. And there's absolutely, from my perspective, and I've been doing this a while, from, you know, like I said, from a Tandy computer that had absolutely no computing power to my iPhone that has more computing power than we had when we put a man on the moon. There's really absolutely no reason why I don't think that currently that we can make a difference, and from the future we can make a difference. I'm a realistic person, but, you know, for this particular question, you got to have optimism. There's just no reason why, you know, that with all these people that I'm looking at on my screen, that we can't touch every life, every piece of youth. You know, yeah, let's play football, let's play basketball, let's play baseball. Though that's all great, but let's look at computers. Let's read a book. Let's do some things, you know, that are going to further your mentality and your own experience. Let's travel. Let's you know. And I'm listening to Michael Owens here, and others who have seen the world behind technology. And I had the same experience working for an oil company. I've been places that I felt like I've been to Russia, and I felt like I was the only Black person in the whole continent, but I was there, you know. So there is no reason why my experience should be unique to anyone else's experience when you got your footprint and your fingerprint on technology. So I think it's bright. I think we can get on it if we just, you know, read and get involved and mentor. So that's my spiel. Dane, go.
Currently today in the cybersecurity space, there's hundreds of thousands of jobs that are open. Even in this pandemic right now, there's hundreds of thousands of jobs that are open. A lot of people talk, I mean, and Taraj's point about I have to know everything, or I have to know something specific. One of the challenges that I think in the Black and brown community is that we don't realize how many different positions there are in this space. There's not a lot of advertisement. I mean, people, the first thing you think about when you say security, you think about firewalls and hacking and all that stuff. And all the roles run the gamut, all the way from marketing to working in the legal field. And it all runs back into cybersecurity, because everything runs on technology right now, and everything needs to be protected because it's vulnerable. I mean, there's even the whole concept of social engineering and how that impacts from a cybersecurity standpoint. And that doesn't have anything to do with math. That's psychology. But I think that what a lot of people fail to understand is that the information is there, But if you don't know how to curate that information, right now you have YouTube University. You can develop a brand new skill over the next couple of months, sitting at home and have your resume ready and start applying for positions, because the jobs are open. They're all over the place. But sometimes we wait and we want things to be structured instead of being adventurous and going out there and explore. Now, there are different personalities out there. They're the adventurous ones and they're the more reserved ones. And that's why I think situations like having these panels, if you can broadcast it and advertise it out there to different people, that there are people out there that you can ask questions to. I mean, too many times we as Black people, we admit defeat before we even try. So we'll say we don't know and we won't even ask. We're afraid of someone telling us no, that, oh, I can't help you, or I don't know anything about that. So we take a no to heart as opposed to just crossing off the list and moving on to the next person. What most people don't realize is the most successful salespeople might even do between maybe 10% of sales. And that's great for them, but they get a ton of no's. So in this opportunity, we have to just kind of help people to push through and realize that there are so many opportunities out there that you're not going to lose. I mean, you just have to find a way in, ask questions, but the sky's the limit. I mean, it's a wide open playing field and it can take you in various directions. I mean, people are literally sitting at home right now saying that they're bored. All they're doing is they're watching Netflix. I promise you, by the time this pandemic is done, there'll be a ton of new skilled people out there for cybersecurity. And 90% of that information is free. And I'm not even just talking about YouTube. There's a bunch of online courses that top universities are providing that you can get your feet wet. So you can try this one out and see if it's a passion, or try that one out and see if you like it, and just keep testing it, and it's free. All you need is that connectivity. There is more information out there today that gives you the access so you can figure out these different directions than even when we got started. I mean, Brent talked about him putting computers together, go dumpster diving for different pieces. All you have to do is go YouTube diving and see how you do it. You don't have to leave you can't even blame it on COVID. You have the access right there. The bigger challenge that I see is that those people who don't have the internet connectivity, that are missing out, and I promise you, you have some of those in those communities that would love the opportunity. I think those are the ones that if we can focus attention and funding to give them the opportunity, I promise you, some of those that don't have the access, you give them access and you give them a direction, they will do more than people who are sitting at home with 3 mobile devices, two tablets and a laptop, and just picking what game do I play every day. So I'll calm down on my passion. I'll pass it over to Christina.
I was actually dreading this question because I'm not going to be nice about it, right? I don't think, while I'm also an optimist, I don't think that everyone's perspective is the same on this, and I don't know if it's different for women. And it's definitely, I know that it's different for women, and it's definitely different for women if you're high yellow or if you're, chocolate brown, you know what I'm saying? So the thing with security is that, yes, it's available. We can all jump in, but if you don't know your why, if people don't know the why they want to be in this space, they will fail, straight up fail. And the reason is because what I find is that people want to mirror other people's paths, right? I cannot be Michael Owens, right? Dr. Michael Owens, because I am Christina. So I have to figure out my path and I have to understand my why. And the second point that I see is that, while this panel is lovely and everyone is super accomplished, I don't see many of us, or I have not seen many of us in leadership positions, especially at the big tech companies, right? The leadership positions in the big tech companies, that's where you make the big money. That's where you can go back and, give back to your communities. That's where you can hold these companies accountable to use their resources and leverage their resources to give back to these communities. So I think that there is a barrier to entry. I think that, they'll hire a help desk person. They'll hire a SOC person. They'll let you burn the hell out. You know what I mean? But will you see that money? How fast will your salary increase? Are you going to get those nice stocks? Are you going to get, $250,000 stock? Are you going to be able to negotiate that $1 million salary that other gentleman, that I don't know, the developer who created all these fonts or whatever, like that he commanded. I haven't seen that yet. You know what I mean? I just haven't seen it. And by the way, I work at Microsoft, right? So like there are a lot of Black folks in leadership at Microsoft, but I don't see anyone in cybersecurity leadership or information security leadership. As a matter of fact, I see people that do not have the type of experience that we have combined in cybersecurity leadership positions. So then I start to wonder, well, what is the requirement, right? How do you get to those levels? And I don't know, I think that we also, I guess my third point is that to Dane's point, we also in the industry, we do a really terrible job at advertising and promoting the type of roles that are available. I think that there is this constant battle between you have to be technical versus if you are in marketing, you're not technical, so I'm gonna demean you because you don't know what you're doing. And then there's also this, you know, this thing about you have to be like winning CTFs and, you know, finding 0 days every day, all day to be successful. So I think that perception matters, right? And I think that there is a lot of noise. So these type of panels I think are important to kind of extend that conversation so that people can see other perspectives. And the reality is right now, the image of information security is white people. You know what I mean? It's white men. These are the people that are successful. These are the people that are talking at DEF CON. These are the people that are heads of the FBI. And of course, there can be, and there are Black folks in these positions, but we don't see them. Where are they? Are they in commercials? Are they, you know, are they producing Mr. Robot? You know, and not to take away from those other folks who are successful in their own right, but what I'm saying is that I don't see many of us in these decision-making positions and getting these opportunities. So I think that there is some contention there, and we could choose to see it and address it, or we could choose to turn a blind eye and just focus on ourselves and our careers and our livelihood. We could do that, but you know, I choose to not do that, and I choose to kind of talk about the ugly pieces as well, because there are ugly pieces. You know, when I see more than a handful of women, Black women CISOs or CEOs or CTOs, then potentially I can have a more positive outlook. But for right now, I don't think that that's the case. For me personally, I've been in the space for way too long. And to be honest with you, I'm tired. I am tired as hell. You know what I mean? But something tells me, you know, for my kids and my daughters and the people that look at me and look up to me to keep going, right? It just, and sometimes I'm mad at myself for not resting, but I feel like this is, with great power comes great responsibility, and it's up to me to show like all the L's that I take, but also all the wins that I take. But it's still a battle. So, you know, I think that, yeah, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Stick to it. I stick to it. It's not pretty. It's not all pretty.
It's not pretty,
and
yeah.
It's good to hear the not so pretty parts, because everybody likes to advertise the wins, but you don't hear about those losses that's going on in the background. That's also keeping a lot of people going. So please tell it like it is. Popcorn to whoever you want.
I thought we were gonna get to that part. But
oh, she brought it, so my bad. But we gonna finish. We gonna finish everyone's. We gonna finish everyone's view first. So popcorn to whoever, Christina.
I'll popcorn to Jesse.
Sorry about that. Trying to get unmuted here. No, you definitely hit the nail right on the head, Christina. And that's the part, like Rod said, I thought we were going to get a little deeper, but I'm glad you brought it up. And I think if you're in this industry, you face that and you struggled with that. And there's a part of us, right, as successful people in general, of any race or color, creed, where you have this, okay, I'm going to work through obstacles regardless of whatever it is. Now, I'm pretty sure we've all done that to get to where we are. But then there's also a piece where there's some additional obstacles that you may face that other folks don't have to face. And I think it's based on, and I didn't get too much into my history in regards to the government and things like that, but I kind of left the government as a GS-15, which is not a super high position, but you have enough supervisory power and leadership to kind of influence and kind of bring folks in and hone folks. And to be honest, I treated folks all the same, to be honest, like good people, bad people. And if I know one person already has kind of a head start on someone else, I want to make sure I can give that other person the opportunity to excel as well and learn and grow as well. I won't call any specific name to it. I've had several situations where I've had folks that weren't privileged the exact same way as someone else. And I use my power, right, and my influence to make sure I put them in a position to win. So that's what I think we need to see more of within our positions. It's great, right? How you're the CISO of Amazon or the CTO of Google, and all these different positions that minorities are getting these days. I love to see those things, but also like to see folks see us reach back, right? And I know this is recorded, and I know my LinkedIn is out there, but I will say this candidly: if there's anything I can do to help you, reach out to me. I will do anything in my power to help you, whether that's on the government side, the private sector side, from help desk to hacking, cyber, blue team, CMMC, whatever I know, whatever background you may see in my resume, you think I can help you, feel free to reach out. I'll do everything in my power to help you. And I think we just need more of that to really help us grow. Now, with just agreeing with you, Christina, yes, there's definitely blockers there. But, and I think 2020 has exposed those blockers and I'm grateful for that. So, right, maybe we can remove some of those obstacles and we can maybe progress more. But at this point, it's like we need to band together. And I think as a people, Black, white, whichever color you are, if you're a good person, you're good with me. And in addition to that, I want to give everyone the same opportunity to excel and win. So I'll get off my soapbox there, and I will popcorn over to Abraham.
Yeah, so Christina, I mean, really all of y'all, but man, Christina really took my thunder, but that's okay. She preached.
Sorry. You can add to the thunder.
Because, I guess what I'll add to it is we definitely need a seat at the table. So one thing about Red Hat that I've never experienced at another company, which is why I'm wearing the shirt, is they're an open company. I mean, they really live that open. So there's a mailing list where every single employee is on it, including the CEO, and they do say whatever their mind is. And so one of the things that we're talking about is, as soon as George Floyd happened, the CEO released a statement that said, silence is complicity, and we support Black Lives Matter, right? And it's great, and it really is great, because Southern company probably wouldn't have done that. But the thing about it was, we came back and said, this is great. Everybody wants to be our ally now. That's awesome. But the C-suite is still lily white. So how do we start to change that? And that goes to what Christina was saying, because some of this we can't change. It's like for years we've been trying to stop racism. We can't stop racism because we can't change another person's heart, right? We have to enlist the people that are doing it to change, or to get people in their peer group to change. And that's how you have to approach getting a seat at the table. But one thing we can do is, and Jesse alluded to this, is as we move up the ladder, and or maybe not even be up the ladder. Sometimes you don't have to be a vice president to influence another vice president being hired. You might be an influence leader in your organization, and people just listen to you. So in those instances is when you're going, hey, I think this person would be good, and here's why. Yeah, they look like me, but we need that, A, and B, their qualifications. Sometimes you have to literally say their qualifications are way better than theirs. Help me understand. Now, do that once you're comfortable that you're saying your job, but I find myself doing that now. So, I'm not ashamed of it. I'm actually happy. I just turned 50. And so I think differently now. Man, I see why my grandmother used to just say whatever she wanted to say. Your grandmother just call you fat. Oh, baby, you're looking fat today. You'd be like, Grandma, don't you love me? But I think age you just start to let some things go. And so I found myself in these meetings at my company saying things and I'm thinking, wait, did I just say that? Am I gonna get fired? But here's the thing. If we don't do it, people won't ever come. There'll be nobody else after us. They're not gonna, and most of the time, honestly, I don't even think it's overt racism. I think it's privilege. I mean, people are comfortable around people that are like them. And so we have to help them overcome those barriers because they'll find every excuse in the world. I mean, you know, I guess we've all been in this industry a long time and you find yourself having to prove yourself over and over again. You're like, dude, I just fixed that problem for you and you still don't think I'm smart enough? Dude, I just innovated and created a whole system for you and what is good enough? And so when I talk to my son who's starting college now, I go, you know, it's just not enough to be good when you're Black or some other, you know, brown races. You have to be good plus 50%, good plus, you know, 30%, because immediately you're bad. You walk in the room and you're not good enough. And so, you know, like I put my degrees on the back and it's not because I'm vain, but I want you folks to know, just like you can go to school, we go. In fact, we won't get hired if we don't have a degree. We won't even get the interview. You at least got to have a degree. You can't go in there and say, my cousin Biff works over in finance and can you hook a brother up? I mean, that just does not work. You have to come in and be credentialed. And so anyway, you started this, Christina. I was nice and being happy. And
No,
now you got me marching.
No, don't be nice. You better be fired up. Wait, so Abraham, quick question. I'm sorry to interrupt or mess up the whole popcorn, but how do you feel then about, you know, some of our counterparts of other, you know, ethnic backgrounds or other backgrounds basically pushing folks and saying like, you don't need a degree to be in this space, right? What you just said is like on point, but then there's just like a counter argument where folks are like, you don't need a degree to be in this space. And I'm like, that is wrong.
That is wrong.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, so a degree for us, for people of color, is your high school diploma, right? It is I mean, I promise you they're just gonna throw it out. If your name is Jerome, Reginald, Abraham, and they see high school education and they're looking for a degree, you know, they just throw that out. And then when I work for the government, you know, they have their resumes are kind of graded by a machine, right? So you have to learn the secret of just putting exactly what the job is looking for. I guess, Jesse, you know that, right?
Oh, you talking about that ATS system, huh?
Yeah,
you talking about that ATS, right? Okay.
Yeah, USA Jobs.
Yes,
Yeah,
that one is a killer.
Yeah, that's right. You have to just lie. I did that. You know, now I don't want people to lie, but to get to these because if you we are 8 generations behind. If we could just get people at the table, because one of the things I will tell you that I see among some C-suite members that are Black is they are afraid. Some of them want to promote people, but they know they have a certain order, right? Because somebody's gonna come to them and say, hey, you're not being fair. But we have 400 years not being fair, plus. So, you know, I think we have to take some decisive action, and I think the time is now. So where I live, there's this really rich community called Mountain Brook, and it is old money. It is not. I mean, it's old slave money. I mean, it's money. But during these protests, they had a Black Lives Matter protest in Mountain Brook. And I was like, oh yeah, Jesus is coming back tomorrow. Because what? So we have a unique opportunity now, right now, to get people involved. So yeah, Christina, don't do me like this, okay? Don't do me like this. I'm all fired up.
Next
Who do I need to go to next?
Let's go.
Sulaiman.
Thank you, Abraham. Yes, so I definitely agree with the whole having degree standpoint in this industry. It definitely gives you that advantage. Also, I use my advantage is because most people think I have an Arab name, so they think I'm either Indian or Arab. So, in the way my resume is set up is you won't tell until you either look at my LinkedIn profile or have an in-person interview. Because I notice a lot of hiring managers will like give me the easy interview or the phone till you get in person. They see me, then it's the hard interview. It's like, how does I got one question I believe is that the overt not going to hire me is how does the internet work? Or weird questions from hiring managers that makes no sense. And I feel like they're more of like the gatekeeping, just so they can say, nope, he does not fit our culture. Or I get the one that's like, you're not a cultural fit. I'm like, we do tech. I don't need to fit into your culture. We need to secure your stuff and keep it moving. But I definitely see that's been the barrier right now. It's a lot of the hiring managers are either doesn't look like us or they always have a I would say a sub bias of what tech people should be versus if you're black, you go to help desk, network engineer. That's what I was told from other white people in my space. It's true though that we had this conversation about 4 years ago. It's like that's what other white people think. We only belong to help desk or network engineers or go sit in a cube, go do something, leave us alone. Versus cybersecurity, which took me a fight to get into this industry because the person that hired me is just when I heard from Jesse and Rod and reaching back is like saying the person that got me my first official position said that I am more qualified based off my personality versus the tech. Because you can teach anyone tech. You can't teach people passion, wants to learn, and all that stuff. Also, what I see right now in our industry is if you're coming to our industry just for the cash, you're gonna get burned out in 6 months. I know those boot camps promise you, yep, you make $100,000. Yeah, $100,000 is gonna come with some stress. Or you're gonna feel the feet to your fire when shit breaks on a Friday afternoon when your F5 goes down. Now what? How do you combat that? How do you keep level-headed? And how do you stay, I'll say passionate in our industry? Because if you don't have that passion, then you're going to burn out in like 6 months and fizzle away or cause major incidents that happen. Because I've experienced that from people we've hired. I wasn't in the hiring decision, but they did not have the chops. And there's other people, Chads, that I just run circles around and then get really pissed off and try to sabotage your work. But I always say in our industry, you definitely start feeling that pressure, definitely document and definitely CYA, cover your assets, and just keep a level headed and just document. So that's all I got so far. I will popcorn to
Thanks,
Dr.
Wayne.
Michael Owens. You're
on mute.
You know, with this question, I should be good now. With this question, I kind of my thoughts went two directions. One was, you know, when we're talking about barriers and Black people in general, you know, I think about the fact that as a society, as children, I have 2 young children, and I constantly think like we have to make this shift from being consumers to producers, right? Consumers to content creators, right? People who play video games compared to people who write and develop video games. And that's probably one of the biggest shifts that we have to look at making. And I know that, you know, some of us, and I heard talk about, you know, back when we had a Tandy or a Commodore 64 or 386 or 486, you know, I was fortunate. I got my first computer, you know, with the cassette from, you know, from Radio Shack. And, you know, but I also know that I was the only kid that I knew in my school at that point in time, particularly that was a Black kid that had access to a computer. And now we fast forward all the way to 2020, and that is still the case, right? I mean, COVID-19 is really kind of torn the cover off this as well. Whereas, you know, I'm here in Atlanta, Georgia, and, you know, surrounding counties, there are plenty of people who do not have computers or high-speed access at home for their kids to even use. So, we're still going through this exercise of trying to make sure that, you can get computing devices in the household. So, the digital divide is still real. And I think it's kind of incumbent on all of us to kind of remember that and realize that and look at the advancements that we've made. I still say, look at the advancements we've made as exceptions, right? We're exceptions to the norm, right? We found a way either through our passion or through our exposure or through just a lucky hire that we wind up getting into this field as a whole. I had that computer when I was 6 and 7 and 10 and 12. When I went in the Marine Corps, I was in comms, so I fell right into that mix. I tell people I graduated from college, North Carolina A&T State University. Just a quick shout out for those who don't know who the Aggies are. I graduated, in the mid 90s. Fortunate enough in that time period where the internet was kind of just taking off. If I would have graduated like 5 years earlier, I would have been climbing telephone poles for AT&T, right? 5 years later, it may have been a completely different situation. So, we have to realize that all of us right now are in a time and place that where we can do good. One of the things that I try to do to help with that barrier is I go to and do career days, right? Particularly at middle schools, and I'll bring a couple computers, I'll set up, I actually print out job descriptions to go back to someone's earlier point, right? And I'll print out some cyber related job descriptions, obviously with salary ranges, because that's going to get kids going. And I lay them out. Here's the different job descriptions. And they all think it's cool, the fact that you chase Russians around on the internet, right? So, you can talk a little bit about that. There's situations where, I have a pretty sweet Porsche 911, and I will drive that on purpose and park it as close to the front as I can, right? Because the kids are going to know. Again, I live in Atlanta. They're going to be like, is that T.I.'s, car? Is that Lil Wayne's? Like, no. Oh, that's Michael Owens. Well, what do you do for a living? Well, let me tell you. Let me explain to you, right? So it's kind of that thing where they can now see it, smell it, feel it. It's real, to them. So they then can aspire, to look into some of these areas, and it's not just, doctor, lawyer, fireman, LeBron or Kobe, right? So we're actually being part of shaping, their viewpoint of what is possible, right? So that's on one end, and then kind of on the far other end of that was what Christina touched on as well, which is the real barriers when it comes to executive level representation, right? And because that directly falls down into where funding is going, who's being hired, extracurricular activities, where you're actually going to look for recruits, right? When you're going to certain colleges. Again, I'm a proud alum for an HBCU. I also went to Georgia Tech. I see the differences, what the recruiting looks like from a lot of these companies, right? So I think, for us getting into some of these executive areas, it can actually help. The last point around that area would be people like us have got to start making their way to corporate boardrooms, right? Sitting on corporate boards, so you then start to shape what those executive offices look like, and then you will have that effect that we'll see going larger and out from that. So that's it, the two spectrums. You guys hit the middle, so I wanted to go on those two far ends.
Wayne?
Hey, you need an answer to that question, Michael, around what model 911. It's really important to me.
It's a C4S.
Oh, nice. 911 driver here too. So, in any case, I'm not sure there's much I can say that hasn't been already stated. So I mean, I guess I'm the last person. It seems as if. I think that a few points. Some of them will just be regurgitation of the past. Some of them will be net new. I think that we do a lot of work, and we, at least recently, we've been doing a really good job of defining and pushing safe spaces. I think that as we are starting to get a bit more attention, as Blacks, given the recent tragedies around George Floyd and others that have perished at the hands of police, et cetera. There's generating a lot of momentum and traction, unfortunately. But a lot of eyes are on us as Black leaders, as Black professionals, as folks that have a job. I think we should probably start transitioning from just simply safe spaces to what I like to call growth spaces. right? Some of these events like what we're doing right now with respect to the virtual conferences, areas and group chats and just online communities where we can come together as a people and contribute knowledge, thought leadership, education around the socialization, the expertise, the growth within cybersecurity. And I think that's part of our onus, part of our obligation as leaders in this space. I don't see a whole lot of that. There's a few, but I think we could do a better job of that. I think a more critical lens needs to be taken. So that's one. I think a more critical lens needs to be taken into the look of white mediocrity and what it takes to truly succeed at the leadership and the executive level, right? And what we are doing, both right and wrong, to either embed or even gatekeep, members of our own community at those levels, right? So what I mean by that is, my peers, my white counterparts, often I'm told, oh, Wayne, you've got to be, by my black peers, Wayne, you have to be twice as good to get half of what they have, et cetera. That really irritates me, right? Because I know that in a lot of cases throughout my career, my white peers have not been half as good as I was, right? And so I think the narrative around, what does Black excellence have to look like? I think it should probably change. And I understand that might be a radical view, but if we look at our white or non, people of color colleagues, and looking to your point, Mike, around board positions and leadership positions and what they do to get their teammates, their friends, their colleagues in, and essentially, facilitate that upward momentum. They're just barely qualified, right? They're you have to be good enough, right, in order to get that board seat, in order to get that executive position. It's very much relationship based, buddy system, et cetera. I think that I'd love to candidly aspire to be as mediocre as some of my white counterparts and have the leverage and ability to actually bring in some of my Black counterparts at that same level of mediocrity. We should aspire to that. I truly believe so. I don't think that we, need to hire the best and the brightest Black person. I think that we should do a lot of work in hiring Black people. And what I mean by that is I am actively looking for Black people. I fully admit that when I, in my leadership, in my position as a hiring manager, I absolutely overlook my white counterparts, the white colleagues, and I actively search out and seek out Black candidates, even if they aren't the most qualified. In fact, I would argue that I don't really need them to be the most qualified. I just need them to be qualified enough, because getting the most qualified is never going to get us to where we need to be in terms of demographic representation equitably across the industry. And so I think that more of that needs to be shared. Feel free to disagree with me, but that's something that I think we don't get enough of. And I think my third point around that is, from a equity perspective, I think a lot's been said, initiated by Christina around, what does not only, we're getting in, et cetera, but also maturing, right? I'd love to see a bit more, true equity around what it means to be a Black leader. I think that Black leaders aren't as enabled as some of our white leaders or our white counterparts, right? Where our marketing, training or prep, et cetera, our media prep, when we go to public speak, where is that? I don't see a whole lot of that. We don't seem to get the same level of care and effect that it seems like our white counterparts, our board members are getting when it comes to executive leadership positions. The headcount, the budget, the care, the support doesn't seem to be there, right? What are we doing for our Black executives in the industry? I think more attention needs to be drawn to that, because it's not equitable. It's not the same. It's not fair. It's arguably systemic. The perception that, this a Black executive, got their job, she or he got their job because they were diversity hired, they weren't good enough, et cetera. That needs to change. And I think by having a preponderance of individuals that are Black and people of color, where we can go from a minority state to a simple majority in some cases, or just, bare, just at least half, right? I think that would be amazing. That would do wonders for our representation, to the folks that are coming behind us. If we look at to kind of change gears a little bit, if we look at how education is handled at our HBCUs, and how I think we as leaders of care, and I'm calling attention to us, we've categorically mishandled education within the HBCUs. I think that there's onus obviously from the federal government, et cetera, for funding, et cetera. But I think we could do a better job going back into HBCUs and even before that, even at the high school level, and bringing more of our, to what you were talking about, Mike, bringing more of our authentic selves and say, hey, look, it's more than just, being a ball player. It's more than just being a doctor, lawyer, nurse, et cetera. This is what you can do within cybersecurity, et cetera. I think that, and not only that, enabling those educational programs, devoting time out of your week. Education is going to go through a disruption. Education at some point will be transitioned, at least partially online. We can devote some of our time to enhancing that curriculum, and supplementing it with real world experience. Whether it's high school, whether it's, middle school, whether it's college, I think that it's part of our mission to kind of train the next generation of Black incumbent professionals to be, all that they can be with respect to computer science, engineering, STEM related, et cetera, whatever it is that they choose to study, to expose them to cybersecurity, information security. I think that it's part of our responsibility to bring them, that level of real world experience and expertise, and augment those programs educationally. And I don't know if I see enough Black practitioners doing that. So like I said, I think all good comments, not much I can really say. That's what happens when you go last, right? But at the same time, I do think that, there's a lot that we can do, and that, the time is now. We have an opportunity. Let's take it. Let's act on that.
Listen, when I said we was going to get into it, I didn't know y'all was really going to get into it like this. Y'all touched on like none of my questions that I was going to ask y'all now. So, but no, I think that it's great to have these different perspectives, because not everybody is going to agree on the same thing, and everybody has that different perspective on it. So I'm going to segue into part of a couple of things. So I just want y'all to know, this is supposed to go to 8 o'clock. It's about 7:15. So if you can, just speed up your answers a little bit, or we'll go a little bit longer, just so everyone knows. And if you have to hop off, that's okay. That's fine. It's not a problem. But I wanted to segue into, we often hear about code switching in the industry, right? So with being your authentic self, how do you balance that line of, having a code switch? I know some of you are older, and some of you, like Abraham said, he's like, I'm saying what I'm saying now. So, how do you still be your authentic self, your authentic Black self, and, have to code switch? And I'm going to choose one person to answer, and I want about three of you to answer, and whoever answers just answers, and we'll move on to the next question and transition. So I'm going to go with Dane, actually.
Wayne or Dane?
Dane, sorry, Dane.
So for me, I don't focus a lot on code switching. I'm on a mission, right? And I'm playing a game. I'm on the board and I'm playing a game. Now, if that means that I can't listen to my music in the office, that's cool. My goal is to penetrate that organization as much as possible and have as much influence as I can, that I can help out the next Black person, right? I'm in there and I'm seeing Black people have challenges about their career growth. So it's not about, oh, I'm being one person here, one person there. I let everybody know I'm all about mentoring, right? That's me, that's who I am, that's my core person. I'm all about giving back. So, I'm not gonna say that if there is a white employee that needs some guidance, I'm not gonna have a problem with that, but my primary focus is about helping us. I see too many times we have smart Black technologies who don't understand that they're part of a game, and the game is playing them, and they're already on the board. So I just gotta help them learn the rules to that game. And that doesn't have anything to do with code switching. The rules are the rules. As long as you be yourself, the rules are the rules, right? Even if you say, I'm gonna start my own business, that's fine. You can hire whoever you want, but whenever you're doing business with people, there's a certain level of professionalism that you have to bring forward. So for me, it's not about who I am here or who I'm there. Everybody knows me. If you know me, you know that I'm always gonna be trying to help somebody, right? I will pull you aside and I'll give you some guidance, or I even tell you, this is what's happening, and you're not even realizing. So I'm going to sit in that room, and it's not about me keeping. When I go in a meeting, I'm not the first one to speak because I read body language, right? I sit there and I study everybody's body language. I watch people watch people. So you might be paying attention to the person who's speaking at the presentation. Watch everybody else's interaction and see how they interact with that person. That's how I learned the dynamics, right? So some people saying that I'm being quiet because I'm the Black person. No. So when I talk and when I say something, you're gonna know because I'm gonna come with something that makes sense. So for me, other people might struggle with it. And maybe again, it's because I've been in this long enough and I've built my confidence over the years, but it's not an issue for me.
So it's the soft skills that played a bigger part in all of this rather than
and soft skills are not code switching. See, a lot of times people talk about keeping it real. But what a lot of people don't realize is what does keeping it real means. What do you want out of this game for you and your family? It's not about impressing somebody else. It's about what's real and what's important to you. Focus on that, and that's what your mission is, not about trying to impress people out there.
Yeah, I like to add to that question. I mean, to that response. Can I do that, Naj?
Yeah, I'm putting out y'all on 1 minute, okay? Because I don't want to ruin y'all Saturday. I want to respect everybody's time. So it's 7:16. I'm gonna cue you in, and you're gonna have like 30 seconds after. But go ahead, you can definitely answer. Please, Wayne.
Yeah, I agree and echo those sentiments. I think that one thing to keep in mind is that in tech, the culture in tech, generally speaking, is very blunt. It's very forthcoming. It's very unsolicited in a lot of cases, and so there's a lot of, I think, runway for that. I think that not that I disagree with anything that Dane said. I 100% agree, but I think that to not acknowledge that code switching happens or even might be necessary in some cases is somewhat disingenuous, right? A lot of these individuals, especially if you're trying to gain authority or influence or at least some sort of clout with board members that are usually 99.9% of the time WAS, white males, etc. And we have to keep in mind that not all security positions are technology positions. A lot of them are business positions. And before you can become your authentic self, not that you should ever hide it, but before they're ready to see it, they have to necessarily know that you're capable. And so a lot of times, before you can even build that relationship, you have to actually develop a relationship or establish a precedent. And I think that we don't do a good job of actually teaching some of those tools to some of the more junior members. So I think that's one that's my perspective.
I agree with the relationship building. I see Christina nodding her head. I think that, do you have like more to add to that part?
Fall off. I'm nodding so hard it's about to fall off. No, I 100% agree with both Dane and Wayne. I mean, I think that also when it comes to being a woman in this space, there is definitely code switching. I mean, even with something as simple as like your hairstyle, right? My Black sisters, they like to wear, I like to wear my cornrows and my braids too. I cannot go into a corporate meeting with those hairstyles. As a matter of fact, my hair is naturally curly, right? And I've been told many a times like, oh, your hair looks better straight, right? Because as Wayne mentioned, this is like I don't know, sometimes people are just like, I don't know, too much. They're emboldened to say things that they should probably not say because no one really cares, but they feel like they want to say it and whatever. Maybe it's helping you, maybe not. But the problem is that you do have to switch yourself up a little bit, right? I can't wear my door knockers and my Timberlands to a meeting at Microsoft. You know what I mean? Like, I can, but I may not be taken seriously because then there's this other bias. So I do have to, in a way, not change who I am, but I have to be flexible enough to, as Dane mentioned, like, look at the dynamics of the room, look at the people that I'm working with or working for, and understand them, and as Michael Owens just said, like, it is a skill, you know what I mean? I cannot be the same person that I am when I'm up in Harlem and I'm loose and I'm just with my people and I'm like, yeah, let me get some greens and some macaroni and cheese. I cannot do that. I have to be more like, yeah, so let's send that status email and be like a team player. I can't just be like, you know what, F out of here. Like, I'm not, you playing yourself right now. I can't do that. So yes, you know, I have to code switch. My sisters have to code switch. We have to, because I need to feed my 3 kids that are upstairs, you know, wanting some chicken nuggets or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Air fried chicken nuggets, but whatever. So, I mean, I think that to Wayne's point, it is disingenuous to say like that it doesn't happen. I think that it may not, one size definitely does not fit all. But I think it's a necessary evil. And I think to Dane's point, the code switching is really just like playing the game, right? For some people, the game looks a little bit differently. And so you have to come at it from another angle. And I think code switching is like one of those angles, you know what I mean? And it's not that it's necessarily a bad thing, but it's a necessary thing.
Brent, you want to add to
Let me
that?
go ahead and jump in real quick. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have a lot to say on that.
Yeah, go ahead,
So Wayne, I agree with you 100%. And the point I love that you made was that a lot of cybersecurity is not technical. There's the business side of it. There's the customer facing side of it. There's the C-level side of it. And when you're in that environment, there's a certain level of professionalism that you have to maintain. But on the other side, it's almost promoted that you be yourself, especially when your work reflects like a deliverable. When you're producing software, when you're a pen tester, no one likes to work with robots. So it's almost promoted that you be yourself, you bring your personality to the table. So I've kind of dealt with that on both sides of it. I mean, growing up, my mother was an educator and I was always taught to speak a certain way. So I actually don't really code switch unless I'm making a joke. And I don't really make a lot of jokes at work. I also work with a bunch of white people, whereas code switching doesn't really take place because who am I going to code switch with and who am I going to switch back to, right? I actually just came across the term AAVE like a month and a half ago. I was unaware of it completely, and it blew my mind. I actually watched a couple of YouTube videos on how Black people speak, and it just turned my world upside down. So I was amazed at that. Outside of that, I also think it's important to note that code switching will probably fade out because remote work will take so much more prevalence in the future of our jobs. And you're not going to code switch when you're on and you're working, right? You're going to turn off your camera, you're going to turn off your mic, and you're going to go back to your life. So there's that aspect of work and then real life. And with that in mind, it's likely that code switching won't take place at work unless you're kind of playing off the rapport that you have with maybe 1 or 2 other individuals that you work with, that you know you can say certain things and maybe get away with certain jokes that you wouldn't otherwise say or do in a different setting.
Go ahead, Rod.
I don't know that I agree, but yeah.
I was gonna add, I'm 55. I've been doing this a very, very long time, and from my perspective, you know, I was always taught that you had to code switch. You just can't bring yourself and your ethnicity to corporate America. It's just one of those things where it's just not something that's frowned upon. But you know, throughout my tenure in doing this, I think there's a delicate balance here. I think the answer is probably in the middle. And I found, you know, throughout my career, and I've been at C-levels, I've been, you know, in board meetings, and everyone is absolutely right. You have to establish credibility. You can't just walk into the room being who you want to be. That it just doesn't work. But maybe after the 3rd or 4th meeting, you might be able to be who you want to be. So I think that, you know, from my perspective and my experience, is that answer in how you speak to people and how you are formal and how you address questions and how you present yourself is absolutely very, very important in the first couple of meetings in terms of being able to establish that credibility, being able to get people to look past the fact that you are a minority. You can't be Lil Wayne. Their whole impression of our people are from rap videos. You gotta move them past that athlete. You gotta move them past that musician. You got to move them past all of these representations that they see in mainstream America and say that I'm none of those people, even though I can be. I do have a sense of humor. I am a Black person. I'm not, I'm not that famous saying, you're not like everyone else, or you're not what I'm used to seeing, and you're not this and you're not that. That goes against their stereotypical view of who we're supposed to be. You've got to move them past and beyond that at that level, so you can bring other people at the same level where you are. There is absolutely no way, in my opinion, that you can't, unless there is a special situation here, you've got to be one of those people you got to break that stereotype. You got to get to a point where they don't believe that they're seeing what they're used to seeing on the 6 o'clock news. You got to get beyond that. That's just my opinion.
So I'm curious I've talked to quite a few of you beforehand, and I think I've heard even from previous panels, the panelists said, they've never had, they didn't have mentors when they were doing this. Have by show of hands, how many of you had mentors while you were doing this, or you've just come into having a mentor like later in your career? Did any of you have mentors while you were doing this, or did you?
I take Batman's approach. Batman doesn't look up to people. He takes the best qualities of the people that he admires, and he looks to replicate those qualities.
Okay.
So I only got my first mentor maybe 3 or 4 years ago, because, coming up, I didn't have, anyone that I could say, oh, they're faultless, or not even faultless, but that person is good enough for me to actually, respect their opinion. That's number one. Number two, up until fairly recently, the last couple of years, I didn't know a whole lot of Black individuals in the spaces that I was working at, the levels that I was working at. And that's not a good feeling, So for me, I had, I didn't really want a white mentor, just keeping it real. Like, that's not something that I really wanted. I didn't want to be like, Johnny or Jimmy or anything like that. That's not my MO. So that's just my personal experience. There weren't a whole lot of mentors to be had, in my opinion. I would kill to have a Rod or a Mike or a Christina, 10 years ago. I would absolutely kill, because I've made so many mistakes in my career. I made mistakes this morning professionally. I would kill to have someone as a sounding board to say, yeah, well, you know what, don't take that job, or you know what, focus on this, or you know what, don't get that degree, or or don't go to college, or do. I never had that.
I had a mixture. I'm right there with you, Wayne. I grabbed qualities. I didn't care what color they were. I looked at the fact that they were successful. I looked at how they delivered things. I looked at the cadence in which they spoke. I'm looking at Barack Obama. His cadence and his delivery is second to none. So when I take these things, just like you were talking about, and I look at these qualities in people and how they were successful. I read books of successful people so I can suck in some of their stories. And if I'm honest, I did have a mentor throughout my career, happened to be Black. He's the one that brought me into the boardroom. I probably would not have made it into the boardroom and given presentations had it not been for that one person. I have no doubt. I'm an oil and gas guy, and anyone else that's ever been in oil and gas, and especially in the ICS part of oil and gas, it is absolutely a very difficult thing to break into. And without this one person, I would have never gotten where I got to. But the only reason why he even took any notice of me is because of the prior things that you have to do. You've got to come to the table with, you can't be this blank sheet of paper. You've got to have something that shows some potential and shows that you are trying to aspire to do something more than what you're doing, so people will take a notice of you and take some investment in. And without doing some of that, I just feel like you get there the best way you can get there, as long as you get there, as long as there's no dead bodies that you're trampling over.
Here's one thing
Also, I just want to
wait. Let me go to Dane. Let me go to
Go ahead.
Go to Dr. Owens because he's been on mute for a minute. I think he had something to share. Go ahead, Dr. Owens.
Two things, just really quick. Number one.
You cut out on us.
You're on mute.
Really quick, just a couple of points. Back to as far as code switching, and I think we all know this, but it's worth mentioning that, you know, when Brent mentioned, you know, about, you know, someone may tell jokes and some other things that may border sometimes along the line of a hostile work environment even. Code switching a lot of times can be very, very subtle, right? It's how you shake hands with someone. You know, it's a matter if you say, you know, how you doing or what's up, right? I mean, it's a matter of talking about what you did this weekend. I mean, Ron, I remember the first time sitting around a boardroom, right? Those conversations on that Monday morning about what they did that weekend wasn't conversations that I could have. You know, I mean, I went shot ball on Sunday at the Y. You know, I didn't have
they have adventures over the weekend, Mike. They have adventures. I mean, these whole stories of adventures.
Exactly.
And you don't have that. Yeah,
right.
I'm with you.
So this whole idea about code switching, we have to understand it's a subtlety, right? At some point in time, just how you interact and how the rest of that world outside of that work environment interacts with you and how you interact with it, right? So, and the last point on that is that the idea of code switching is because, let's face it, if the boardroom or the work environment was full of us, there would be a lot more code switching going on the other way. And that's just a fact of the matter, right? Because it's all based on what is deemed as the norm, right? So wearing cornrows or dreads is not seen as the norm. Therefore, it's a bit outside of the regularity there. The other point I wanted to make was, you know, we've got to remember the totality of this career field that we're talking about, right? We're talking about, you know, help desk, SOC analysts, all the way up to the boardroom, right? So more of that individuality and, you know, the expressiveness is going to be seen and celebrated at different lengths more often, right? I mean, you know, you go in a certain SOC and yeah, you're going to see, you know, tennis shoes and grunged out t-shirts, you know, maybe folks will dress it. It's much more forgiven in that space and at some point more expected and more celebrated, if you will. But the higher you start to make it up that ranks, the more confining you are expected to be, particularly, as Rod said, until you really prove yourself, if you will, right? Because at the end of the day, it's about can you perform, and then more of that starts to come out. So I want us to remember that too, that we're talking about the breadth of the career and all the stages in between and how to navigate those.
Very good point. I think someone else had something, but I'm going to switch to a different question.
So I was
just
going to quickly add, Michael, you're dead on in that respect. And I wanted to just take it back to the aspect of cyber and engineering and security. And yes, it's important the way you sound and present yourself, the higher you go up the ladder. But if you are good at your job, if you are technically a wizard, no one's going to care what you sound like. If you can get the job done, if you can write that software, if you can make your software defensible, if you can penetrate networks, escalate privileges, and move throughout and deliver a great report, regardless of how you talk, if your report shines, your work shines, that's the only thing that matters in the end.
I don't know about that one, man. My experience has been totally different.
I was about to say, I don't even know about that one, and I don't have a role.
But I'll say this.
Let me finish because
that goes back to Christina's why. That goes back to Christina's why, because not everyone wants to be in the boardroom. Not everyone wants to be a manager. Some people like myself just want to be technical.
Got it.
I'm always going to be technical. I don't care what people, I mean, I know I speak pretty well, but I don't really care if people think I'm fake or real or whatever, because I'm good at what I do.
Yeah, and
so adding,
look,
adding that caveat.
If you're talking.
Wait, hold on. Go ahead, Rod.
No,
Rod, then Dr. Owens, then Abraham.
If you're staying within the technical realm and you're not interested in bridging the gap between, from a risk management standpoint, between technical things and risk, business risk, and marrying those two concepts together so board people can understand, because all they care about is risk and cost, then I'm with you, Brent. I'm absolutely with you. No, you can do whatever you need to do, deliver, and from a technical standpoint, but at some point when I'm talking to you, Brent, because it's somebody has to represent your work at the higher level so they can understand what you're saying. No one is interested in talking.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm not presenting my work shucking and jiving.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. You know, I'm going to present it in a professional manner.
Yeah.
But, you know, when it comes to what your deliverable is and how technical you are, I can make a joke. I can be down as much as I want to be because the work shines.
Yeah. I hear you. I hear you.
Dr.
Abraham?
Owens, were you going to go?
No, Abraham, go ahead.
So Brent, the only thing I would say is, because I do agree with that, but it's the opportunity to show that you are competent. You don't typically get that opportunity, you know, from the jump. And so you have to, so, you know, one of my experiences is I built the entire process for my company, automated it all the way down to make it push button, self-service, all of that. I didn't get that opportunity year one. I didn't get, and I came into this particular company as a mid-season hire. I'm in a mid-career hire. So they saw my resume. They saw the things that I could do. But when I came in, the comment was, yeah, but you hadn't worked here. But dude, I am at least 3 times more competent than all of the people that you have working in this department. And so I think there are things that we have to do on the front end to even get the opportunity. But once you get the opportunity, yeah, so.
I agree. Presentation is a lot. It's almost everything. But we're talking about cyber, and we're talking about this work within itself. And there's 2 ways to go, and it's also what Christina mentioned, the why. Not everyone wants to be a manager. Not everyone wants to sit on that board, on the boardroom. A lot of people just want to be pen testers or great coders or whatever else exists in between. And you don't have to be a certain way to be great at that work. Or you don't have to act or speak or present yourself in a pristine manner to be good in that respect.
Sulaiman?
Oh, no, I was going to add to what Brent said, especially about being a pen tester. I definitely agree with that because as a pen tester, I was always given the word as a present yourself as a board, like blend in. Sort of, I guess you say from white people say more like code switch because as you say, I'm wearing a black t-shirt. Can't wear a black t-shirt in the boardroom. So I will say from that perspective, to get like to earn the respect or at least blend in to show my work as a pen tester, I did have to put on a suit and tie, even though it's annoying to present findings that way, but it does definitely gives that senior management what they understand. They see the image and that gives them trust. So I'll say it's always about like trust and verify in our industry. And that's one thing to make them feel comfortable. It's like, okay, I can trust you because you talk a certain way or you seem to be a certain way. So I would say I consider it advanced social engineering. You got to social engineer your way into that boardroom or that role or that position to get your point across in this industry.
I think a big part that no one that people are talking around but aren't really explicitly stating is the self-awareness piece, right? And knowing your audience, right? Like if you know yourself and you know your audience and you understand what you're trying to communicate and you're not really trying to make other people feel comfortable, you're being completely genuine and you have a really good understanding of the perceived outcome. I think that what Brent is saying is entirely appropriate. However, I think that if you have an expectation that they're going to let you, present or lead other individuals that may, be a bit more client-facing or external, I think that would be, again, not a reasonable expectation, right? So I think self-awareness and knowing your audience and knowing the situation, knowing the context is absolutely paramount to this discussion, right? Because I think some of the best pen testers in the world, some of the best pen testers I know at least, don't, in my opinion, have the best presentation. Don't, in my opinion, have the best, conversational skills, right? And they don't really want you, and that's not something they really want. That's not a skill set they want to incubate. I think I can't remember the gentleman's name. He mentioned that he was building a practice, and I felt, I actually am really sensitive to that because I tell people all the time, a practice building skill set and a delivery skill set are 2 different skill sets. But one is not better than the other, right? They're just different skill sets. And I think that when people get into practice building or, product management, et cetera, they realize that, right? Like having a delivery capability and having ability to actually converse with individuals, different, but equally important, depending on your objectives. So I think we should just, make sure that we're at least providing the proper context or the adequate context with respect to the objectives. Otherwise, we don't want the message lost in translation. That's all.
Correct. So with that, we're at 7:40. So I'm going to get y'all to answer 2 more questions. And I want everybody actually to answer. And look at your times when you start talking, because you're going to only have 2 minutes, okay? I want everybody to answer. So 2 things. Where do you see us as Black people in the next 5 to 10 years within that industry? And 2, what is your call to action to our Black counterparts and our non-Black counterparts? Because we all know sometimes that all skin folk isn't kinfolk too, because that's also an issue. And our non-Black counterparts, what actions can they take to ensure that, they have that power to put us in those rooms, mentions our names, and and actually build equity into cybersecurity, because it's not just diversity, it's not just inclusion, it's also equity as well. So what do you see us in the next 5 to 10 years? And what is your call to action to everyone about being Black in the industry? And I'm actually going to start with Jesse, and you got 2 minutes, and then you'll popcorn to whoever.
And we're starting. No. Yeah, I'll definitely keep it down to 2 minutes here. Just in regards to where I see Blacks within the next 5 years, I think our culture as a whole is very, we can pretty much evolve into whatever we need to do. I think someone stated earlier, going from data centers into virtualization into the cloud now. So I think we'll move whichever direction the industry goes. I know there's a lot of things like machine learning, RPA, and things like that. So I think the ability of, in short, a lot of folks within our realm are really starting to move up slowly but surely. And I think talks like this really shows other individuals that there are other people like you. Like I've heard some of the first 2 Fireside chats that we had, and folks were like, I didn't know, there were that many Black people in the industry. Same thing here. I'm like, I was the only guy, when I worked, I was the only cyber guy, and definitely the only one that looked like me. So as you see yourself moving up, you start to, checking my time now, as you see yourself moving up, you start to see yourself in a room of people that don't look like you. So like I said, within the next 5 years, I think we need to focus on helping people that look like us move up and give them the opportunity, right? Not just, hey, you're a Black guy, I'm gonna move you up. I also want you to earn, right? Because I'm not gonna bring you on board and you make me look bad. So and if your skills aren't up to par, I am more than willing to show you how I got to where I am and what you need to do to get there, right? But I'm not just gonna, hey, you're a Black guy, so come jump on board, right? That won't work with me. So I had to work very hard to get to where I am, and I would expect you to do the same. So I think as a group, we're very resilient and we'll continue to grow. To answer that second question really quick here, what's the ask of the industry? I would just ask the industry and our culture in general, just give us a shot, right? Don't just give us a job as an analyst or something like that. If that person is qualified for a director position, give them that director position. Give them the same opportunity you would give anyone else. So 2 minutes exactly.
Yes, you did 2 minutes exactly. Thank you. Popcorn to whomever you want. Who would you choose?
I'm muted. I'm gonna send it over to the heavy hitter, Christina.
That's so funny. Thank you. Okay, so 5 to 10 years. I'm going to say that I don't know, but I'm really excited. And the reason why I'm really excited is because seeing panels like this remind me that we are out here and that we exist, and that it's not just like all theoretical, right? And that we're out here with PhDs driving Porsches and stuff like that, and about to get on boards and stuff like that. So I'm like excited. I'm like, yes, I want a Porsche, okay? No, but besides that, I think that there's so much potential and so much possibility, and so I I'm excited for, you know, folks as they move across the jungle gym to kind of turn around and help others, you know, help others up. I know that I will be one of those folks. And that could be in your community, on Twitter, whatever the case may be. And then my call to action is for our white counterparts is to sponsor us, right? Like put your ass on the line. Stop with this private, you know, private side channels telling me you support me or you support someone else, you support Najla, you support, you know, Jai. No, say it in public. You know what I'm saying? Put your foot in it. You know, we're tired of like, you always saying, you know, yeah, like, yes, I feel for you. You know, I empathize. It's so hard. You know, I don't understand, but I can't imagine. No, say it in public, right? If you have nothing to lose, you're not doing anything. You're not doing anything. You're not making any change. Just because you're saying Black Lives Matter, that means shit. It means zero, nothing, right? So if Black Lives Matter and, you know, whether you high yellow or dark brown, don't matter. If Black Lives Matter, point blank, period, then do something about it. Put your money where your mouth is. You know what I'm saying? Like sponsor us, speak for us, help us extend our voices, right? And not only, I'm not saying give me the job or give Najla the job, but open the doors, introduce us to folks, right? You know what I mean? And or mentor us, right? Be a sponsor and a mentor. Get to know us, see where our skills lie, see where we have gaps, help us, right? And help us get into these executive board seats. I was lucky enough that I met an executive from Twitter, engineering executive, engineering leader, and I got 3 other women in cybersecurity to get on a conference call with him. It was a smaller, you know, not as large as this, but we got on a Zoom chat with him or Google chat, and we asked him questions. How do you break to that $1 million salary? How do you negotiate? How do you get to the executive ladder? And he said, you know, forget about like these barriers. And he said other things, but one thing that he said is that it's a whole different ball game when you reach that level. No one tells us that. So the game that we play, the checkers or the chess that we play is completely different when you get to the C-suite level. So for our white counterparts, give back, show us the game, show us how to run it. We'll play it, but show us, point us in that direction. And that's all.
Come on with the church on a Saturday.
I didn't even get any wine or any drink. I mean, I would have been dangerous if I would have.
No, I think that I agree with what you're saying. Who you want to pass the mic to now?
Oh, I'm going to pass it to, let's see, Dr. Owens.
All right. Thank you, Christina. 2 minutes. Let's do this. Where will Blacks be within cybersecurity 5 or 10 years? It's up to us. It's up to us. It's up to every one of us that's on this panel now, that's been on the previous 2 panels. I think, you know, just the skill sets, the quality, the talent, the passion is there. We just, you know, we're going to be a testament to a lot of that happens. I think there's going to be pockets throughout the country that's going to work faster or slower towards that pace. But I think by networking together, we can definitely make inroads in that. As far as, you know, what can we do in the industry? I say be active, right? Go back to those middle schools, those high schools, do the career days. You know, go to your colleges. You know, see if you can get engaged with your alma mater in some kind of way, shape, form, or fashion. I always say mentor your youth, make peer connections, and master your skills, right? And just push that as a mantra, right? And then, you know, for our white counterparts, it's, you know, challenge them to give folks a look. So like we said before, someone whose resume doesn't have to be 10 times as good, right? Get in those businesses and challenge them, right? Make sure that we're putting people in front of their face, right? I hope every one of you are using, whether through your corporate way or through networks, that you are referring people to your manager, to your vice president, right? Refer people and go, I've got a friend, I know somebody that can fill this role. No, they don't have to check every single box, but make sure we're putting people in front of their faces, right? So they cannot say they were not seeing people that look like us. That's it.
Who you going popcorn to? Can't let it hang.
Go to Dane.
All right, 2 minutes, here we go. First thing up, 5 years, that will be decided in the next 12 months where we have what happens in 5 years. Really, because there's a great opportunity. Out of chaos, there's opportunity. And because there's going to be a lot of virtual businesses or business transforming to virtual, cybersecurity is going to be at the highest levels than ever before. Because we're going to have to focus on a whole different level. So it is up to us to seize this opportunity. Here it is, Black is in. Don't know how long it's going to be there, but Black is in to seize the opportunity. Second, what would I say to our people? Stop breaking us down and lift us up. If someone who is higher than you has done well or achieved something, celebrate them instead of just knocking them down or just feeling that, oh, it wasn't my turn. If you spend more time celebrating others, good things will come to you. Sometimes we get a little bit jealous because someone else has done well. And even when someone else has done well, you can still help them out. You can provide them assistance, and you never know where that will take you. For our other friends in the corporate America, all I ask is, when we're not in the room and something bad goes, say something. You can say it when we're in the room just because you want to appease us, but stand up for us when we're not in the room. Because it is in those conversations where change happens. Because we're not always going to be in that corner office having that discussion. A lot of us haven't gotten to that point yet. So be that representative. If something is wrong, even if you're having a professional conversation, you're making jokes that are racist, call them out. You don't have to call them out when we're in the room just to impress us. Call them out when we're not in the room.
Amen.
I will pass it on to Brent.
Okay, let me make it brief, as I usually do, but I'll set the timer anyway. So let's see, where will Blacks be within cybersecurity over the next 5 to 10 years? Pretty much what Michael said, wherever we want to be, whatever you choose to do. There's a lot of opportunity. It's not going to get any worse. It's just going to keep going up, especially in the post-COVID world. So pick a path and go after it. I ask that people figure out what they want to do and where their passion is in the industry. I think that that's something that people tend to overlook because cyber is the hot thing. There's a lot of money in it, and people just want to get involved and get paid. But if you don't have any passion in this field, you're not going to make it. And passion in cybersecurity is the equivalent of the whiteboard test in software engineering. That's how you're going to be judged when you go for that cyber job. They're going to judge you on how passionate you are, your home labs, the books you read, the people you follow. That's the litmus test when it comes to cyber. So it's really figure out what you want, figure out what you're excited about, and then go after that 150%. And to our white counterparts, get the hell out of the way. That's it.
Who are you going popcorn to?
Let's go Abraham.
Yeah, so Dr. Owens has already said where, because I agree, I think we're going to be exactly where we work towards being. So I can save some time there. Number one, to us, we have to continue to pull people up. And I think, and you guys just tell me if you're like at that point, but I think in life now, I mean, I still want to achieve, I'm still upwardly mobile, but I am so much more concerned now about legacy and who I'm bringing behind me now. And so I teach, I'm an adjunct instructor at HBCU. I didn't go to an HBCU, but Auburn didn't need my help. This HBCU is trying to build a tech program, and right now they don't have the corporate sponsorship. So I'm trying to get Red Hat to build them a lab, those kinds of things. And so whatever that context looks like in your sphere of influence, go do something that's going to expose a whole other generation to tech. Because in my class, I mean, I happen to just teach them Python, intro to programming, because that was the only class that was open. But I exposed them to cybersecurity and OS. I try and say, this is what industry is like. I talk to them about the whole code switching, and they come in my class in one way, and I go, look, there's a game that's being played. Let me educate you to the game. To our white counterparts, it's been said all around the room, things won't change until they change it. Because, you know, to Dane's point, even if I'm in the room and I say something, you know, to an off-color joke or whatever, that might not impact them as much as a white person saying that was not cool, or, you know, because you know, we already enter the room with this idea that we might be in some way inferior, which is a lie. But so I think white people have to definitely advocate. And then once they start, you know, being more than just lip service, things will change. I'm going to go, who hasn't gone? Rod, I guess.
Yeah, that the first part of that question is I have no idea. I have no idea. It's one of those things where, you know, our destiny is in our hands. We have to get out of our own way. And what I mean by that is, let's start in November. And when we start in November, let's work our way, you know, from that point on. And part of that, from my perspective, is let's start focusing on things that are that attribute to making our life more of a marathon instead of a sprint. Got to stop looking for this instant gratification. You got to start, you know, investing in yourself and investing in long-term activities that are going to result in the betterment of your family, and not running out doing some of the things that are in betterment for yourself. For our counterparts, I don't know. I mean, I get to a point where, where I just think that asking a wide range of a whole class of people to do some self-examination and do some introspect is not my place. You know, I think this is more along the lines of you need to consult a higher power and start looking, believing more in the things in your actions, more along the lines of what you're doing to a whole group and class of people. Not just us, we got the Native Americans. You got to look toward your ancestors and your history to see that you're just perpetuating something that I really don't think you want to perpetuate. I think it's more along the lines of, you know, change how you view us, change how your children view us, and then at some point to understand that we're more than entertainers, we're more than athletes, we're much more than musicians, and not that those things are not important, but for you to really be a fair class of people that give other people opportunities, that, you know, you gotta move beyond being selfish. So just try to do better at the individual level and at the systemic level, and I think everything will be fine at some point. I don't think it's going to be, you know, I'm not going to be delusional and think everything is going to be in my lifetime going to be just magically fixed, but you got to start somewhere. So I think it's Sulaiman. I passed that. Yeah, go for it, bro.
Thank you, Rod. In terms of us in 5 to 10 years from now, I really don't know, but I do have a great feeling that with this last 3 panels and the more exposure, I would say in the last, I'll say 18 months, almost a year now, we have been more exposed in the cybersecurity community, been more vocal than 6 years ago. I will say from a perspective that we should become more active in going to conferences, because it sucks to be the only Black person like before at DEF CON or at smaller B-sides. So as long as we become more active in the community and show our other white counterparts that we are here, we'll say our industry is going to be on a decent path, as well as bring up more of the junior people, groom them, show them the actual playing field and understand this game that we're playing in the corporate America. I'll say we have a great shot next 10 years. That's my spiel.
What's your call to action?
Call to action, I would say for these companies that put more marketing dollars into like ICMP, Blacks in Cyber, WIS, I've been seeing a lot more of that growth. So spending more money in mentorship and giving us training, like SANS, stuff like that, I'll say is a good equalizer playing field.
And Wayne.
Yeah, I think to answer your question very directly, it's just a numbers game at this point. There are going to be more Blacks in cybersecurity, just given the fact that there are more opportunities, given the fact that there are more resources, and there's more investment on both sides, right? You know, we are investing, they're investing, everyone's investing in Black talent, you know, right now because it's trendy. Whether or not it's for the right reasons is debatable. But, you know, we're absolutely going to have a more pervasive footprint in the industry in the next 5 years. Now, what that looks like, I don't have the numbers in front of you, but I do think that we're absolutely going to be, there's going to be an X multiplier, in the next 5 years. To your second question around call to action, I might be the only person on this call that might not have a call to action. I think for me, I don't inherently trust allies. And I think that, maybe I'm alone in that, but, I don't really have any incentive to trust individuals that, all of a sudden want to be an ally. Why my question to allies is, what happened, now that that you didn't believe, what do you believe now that you didn't believe prior to George Floyd that makes you want to be an ally? Right. And, I'm really curious to hear the answer to that question for allies, from allies. Like it just, the concept of an ally, I think, is well intended, but I don't know if it's really well thought out. So I think we really need to kind of give some critical thought into not only what it actually takes to be an ally, but what allies can actually do. I think a lot of the things that we've been recommending, as a people for allies, somewhat have been, kind of bare minimum superficial. And I think, it's a dangerous, slippery slope, dangerous game that we're playing. So, for me, it's not a matter of, what can allies do for us? It's what can we do for ourselves, and what can we extract from our allies and to enable us to get down that path. So, just my 2 cents there.
Got it. So, it's 8 o'clock. I did good on timing, but I really think that this was a very healthy and open, honest conversation. And I just realized that I think I have panelists that have the most experience on this panel. And I think that all of what everyone said is valid. And I think that as we continue to go forward, we need to continue to build our networks and communicate with everyone. And I want to just really express my gratitude to you all for trusting me to allow you to share what it is that you want to share. I think that this was all born out of me having frustrations of seeing the same people get to speak on these organizational panels and share their knowledge. But, I know that we're here, right? So let me put out a bird call or a smoke signal, I guess, to get more people to share. And I think that doing this will allow people to see that, we are here, you guys are here, you're willing to help, and you're willing to share what it is that you know. So I want to express my sincerest gratitude and graciousness for all of you sharing. I don't know, I'm a little sad that this is like the final one, but in that, if you all want to share your resources, or share your LinkedIn, or, let the attendees know that you're open to connecting, just drop it in the chat so that they know as well. But I just want to sincerely thank everyone for attending, everyone for participating and sharing their knowledge. And I'm looking forward to networking with all of you and speaking with you further and just progressing in the industry. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Seriously, thank you.
No, thank you, Naj.
You.
Yeah, thank
Thanks,
you
Naj.
for
Great.
including me.
Yes.
Very appreciative.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Everyone
Matt.
have a great Saturday night. I'm gonna go have me a good Saturday night. And I look forward to talking with all of you further.
Awesome. Great job, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Nice to meet you
Bye-bye.
guys. Bye.
Great to meet you all too.